The massive alien ship drifted silently through space, its dark hull reflecting the distant stars. Inside the command center, Admiral Kethvar stood before a large screen, showing the blue and green planet called Earth. His forearms moved across the control panels as he studied the data his scouts had collected over many months. "What do we know about these humans?" Kethvar asked his second-in-command, a thin alien with purple skin named Commander Zex. Zex pulled up files on the main screen. "They are a young species, Admiral. Our scouts say they have been watching space for less than 100 years. They have only been to their own moon a few times. Most of their technology is very basic." Kethvar looked at the images of human cities, roads, and vehicles. Everything looked so simple compared to the great ships that flew between the stars. The humans used chemical rockets that barely left their atmosphere. Their weapons were primitive bullets and simple explosives. They had discovered nuclear power, but just barely. "Do they have space defenses?" the Admiral asked. "Nothing worth mentioning," Zex replied. "A few small satellites. Some space stations that look like metal cans. Their biggest weapons are nuclear missiles. But they move so slowly our point defense systems would destroy them easily." Other officers gathered around the display. They had conquered dozens of worlds, and this one looked easier than most. The humans seemed to spend most of their time fighting each other instead of preparing for threats from space. "Look at this," said Lieutenant Vex, pointing to recordings of human wars. "They still use ground vehicles with wheels. Their soldiers carry basic rifles. Even their aircraft move slower than our shuttles." The room filled with the clicking sounds that served as laughter for Kethavar's species. How could such a backward world pose any threat to the mighty Zephyrian fleet? "The Galactic Council has decided," Kethvar announced. "Earth has valuable minerals that the galaxy needs. The Commerce Guild wants to strip mine the planet. Our job is to remove the humans quickly and cleanly." The plan was simple. 12 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy would arrive at Earth. They would destroy any military resistance in orbit, then demand surrender. If the humans refused, orbital bombardment would destroy their major cities until they gave up. It had worked on 43 other worlds. "How long should we plan for the operation?" Commander Zex asked. 3 days at most," Kethvar replied. "1 day to travel there, 1 day to break their resistance, 1 day to set up mining operations. These humans have no idea we exist. They will be completely surprised." Far away on Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen worked the night shift at a research station buried deep in the Antarctic ice. The station looked like a simple weather monitoring post from the outside, but beneath the ice lay equipment that could detect signals from across the galaxy. Sarah sat alone in the underground control room, watching screens full of data streams. Most nights were quiet, with only the normal background radiation of space. But tonight was different. Her computers had detected something unusual. A signal that did not come from any human technology. The message was short and coded in a way that only a few people on Earth would understand. Sarah's hands shook as she decoded it. 12 ships coming. Zephyrian fleet. Strip mining operation. They think you are helpless. Activate Protocol 7. The nomads remember. Sarah stared at the message for a long moment. Then she reached for a special communication device hidden in her desk. The device looked like an ordinary tablet, but it connected to a network that officially did not exist. "Control, this is Antarctic Station," she whispered into the device. "I have a code-red message. The Watchers are coming." Thousands of miles away, in a hidden facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Marcus Torres received Sarah's message. He sat in a room that government records claimed was used for storing old files. In reality, it was the command center for humanity's greatest secret. Torres was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent the last 20 years preparing for this day, hoping it would never come. Now it had arrived and everything would change. "How long until they reach Earth?" Torres asked his communications officer. "Based on the signal timing, approximately 72 hours, sir." Torres nodded and activated his own secure communication system. Within minutes, he was speaking directly to the President of the United States, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, the President of China, and leaders from 12 other nations. They all knew this day might come. They had all agreed on what must be done. "Ladies and gentlemen," Torres said quietly, "our friends have warned us. The galaxy has decided we are ready for harvest. It's time to show them how wrong they are." Back in space, Admiral Kethvar's fleet moved toward Earth at faster than light speeds. The ships were beautiful and terrible, each one 3 kilometers long, armed with weapons that could crack a planet's crust. Their shields could stop anything the galaxy's known weapons could throw at them. "Admiral," Commander Zex reported, "we are receiving normal broadcasts from Earth, news programs, entertainment signals, communications between their primitive satellites. They show no signs of knowing we are coming." "Perfect," Kethvar replied. "The element of surprise will make this even easier." He looked again at the intelligence reports about human technology. Chemical rockets, nuclear weapons, basic computers, radio communications. It was hard to believe that such a primitive species had survived long enough to develop spaceflight at all. "Inform the fleet," Kethvar ordered. "We will drop out of light speed at the edge of their solar system. Full battle formation. I want to give these humans a show of force they will never forget." The 12 Zephyrian warships were among the most feared weapons in the galaxy. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy every human city in a matter of hours. Their crews had never lost a battle. They had never even been seriously challenged. What Admiral Kethvar did not know was that far beneath Earth's oceans, in hidden bases carved from the sea floor, other ships were beginning to wake up. Ships that had been waiting in silence for 50 years. Ships that did not appear in any human military records. Ships that the galaxy had never seen before. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, objects that looked like ordinary space rocks began to show tiny energy readings. On the moons of Saturn, beneath the ice of Europa, in the rings of Jupiter, things that had been sleeping started to stir. The Zephyrian fleet was 3 days away from Earth. They expected to find a helpless world defended by primitive rockets and nuclear weapons. They had no idea that human beings had been preparing for this moment for decades. Admiral Kethvar stood confidently on his command deck, certain that the conquest of Earth would be remembered as the easiest victory in Zephyrian history. In 3 days, he would learn just how wrong the galaxy had been about the small blue planet and the dangerous species that called it home. The greatest surprise in galactic history was about to begin. 50 years ago, humanity's first contact with alien life had not gone as anyone expected. The visitors were not the powerful galactic empire that science fiction movies had imagined. Instead, they were refugees, tired, desperate people fleeing from something terrible. The ship that crashed in the Pacific Ocean in 1975 was barely holding together. Its crew of 6 aliens was dying from radiation poisoning and starvation. When human rescue teams found them, the aliens begged not to be returned to space. They had been running for over 200 years. Dr. Elizabeth Warren, the lead scientist on the first contact team, would never forget her first conversation with Keeper Morvain, the leader of the alien refugees. Morvain looked almost human except for his silver skin and large black eyes that seemed infinitely sad. "Your species is in great danger," Morvain had told her through a translation device. "The galaxy is not the peaceful place your people imagine. There are empires out there that destroy any world that might someday challenge their power." The aliens called themselves the Nomads. They had once lived on a beautiful world with green oceans and crystal cities. Then the Zephyrian Confederation had arrived, demanding surrender. When the Nomads refused to become slaves, their world was burned from orbit. "How many of you escaped?" Dr. Warren had asked. "From a population of 3 billion, perhaps 50,000 made it to the ships," Morvain replied. "We have been hiding in the dark spaces between stars ever since, slowly dying out. Your Earth will face the same choice we did, surrender or burn." But the Nomads saw something in humanity that gave them hope. Humans were survivors. They had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that would have destroyed other species. More importantly, humans were innovators. When faced with a problem, they found new solutions. "We cannot give you our technology," Morvain explained. "The galactic empires have ways of detecting their own tools. But we can teach you principles. We can show you how things work. Your people must build their own defenses in their own way." The world's governments had met in secret. The public could never know about the aliens or the coming threat. Panic would destroy human civilization before the aliens arrived. Instead, a new organization was created, the Solar Defense Force, hidden within existing military and space programs. General Torres had been a young lieutenant when he first entered the underground facility in Colorado. The Nomads had been living there for 5 years, working with human scientists to share knowledge. What he saw changed his understanding of the universe forever. The key is to hide your true capabilities. Keeper Morvain had taught the human engineers. The galactic powers are arrogant. They believe that any species without faster-than-light travel must be primitive. Use this against them. Humanity's secret space program began in the asteroid belt. Using nomad knowledge and human engineering, they carved out bases inside large asteroids. The work was slow and careful. Everything had to look natural from the outside. Any alien scout ships passing through, the solar system had to see only empty space and floating rocks. The first human starship had been built in a hollowed-out asteroid near Ceres. It looked nothing like the sleek alien vessels in movies. Instead, it was angular and brutal, covered in armor that could adapt to different types of damage. Its weapon systems were based on human military thinking, overwhelming firepower delivered with precision. Your species approaches warfare differently than most galactic civilizations, Keeper Morvain had observed. You study your enemies. You adapt. You find weaknesses that others miss. This will be your greatest advantage. The shipyards spread throughout the outer solar system. Hidden bases were built in the ice moons of Jupiter and Saturn. Weapons platforms were disguised as communication satellites. Manufacturing facilities were carved into the far side of the moon, where Earth's bulk hid them from alien sensors. President Harrison, one of only 12 people on Earth who knew the full truth, had visited the lunar facilities just once. Walking through kilometers of underground tunnels filled with weapons and ships, he had felt both pride and terror. How many ships do we have now? He had asked General Torres. 36 dreadnoughts operational, sir. 42 more under construction. Plus support vessels, fighters, and orbital defense platforms. We're as ready as we can be. The Nomads had provided one final gift, a warning system. Their few remaining ships, still hiding in deep space, watched the major galactic trade routes. When the Zephyrian fleet had begun moving toward Earth, Keeper Morvain himself had sent the message that Sarah Chen received in Antarctica. The galaxy believes you are helpless, Morvain had told Torres during their last meeting. They have watched your public space program and seen only primitive rockets. They do not know about your hidden fleet. This ignorance will be their downfall. Now, as Torres sat in his command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, screens showed him the positions of every human asset in the solar system. Dreadnoughts waited in the asteroid belt, powered down and silent. Defense platforms drifted among the ice chunks of Saturn's rings. Fighter squadrons sat ready in hidden bases on Europa and Titan. Sir, his communications officer reported, all assets report ready status. Project Horizon is fully operational. Torres nodded. Project Horizon, humanity's secret name for their hidden space fleet. 50 years of preparation were about to be tested. The Nomads had taught humans how to build ships that could fight the galaxy's best technology. But they had also taught them something more important, how to think like survivors. Broadcast the activation signal, Torres ordered. All ships are to maintain stealth until the enemy enters the inner system. Remember, let them get close. Let them think they've won. Then show them what happens when you threaten Earth. Across the solar system, hidden human bases received the signal. In the asteroid belt, massive ships began quietly charging their power systems. On distant moons, fighter squadrons ran final checks on their weapons. Deep beneath Earth's oceans, defense platforms prepared to rise from the sea floor when the time came. The Zephyrian fleet was still 2 days away from Earth. They were flying toward what they believed would be an easy conquest. Admiral Kethvar expected to face primitive nuclear weapons and chemical rockets. He had no idea that humanity had spent 50 years building a fleet specifically designed to destroy ships exactly like his. The Nomads had given humanity knowledge, but humans had added something the galaxy had never seen before. The cold, calculating fury of a species that had spent its entire evolution learning how to kill things bigger and stronger than themselves. In 2 days, the Zephyrian Confederation would learn why the galaxy's most dangerous predators came from a small blue planet that everyone had dismissed as harmless. Earth was about to show the universe what humans did to anything that threatened their home. The Zephyrian fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. 12 massive warships appeared in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the power of advanced technology. Each ship was over 3 kilometers long, armed with weapons that could destroy cities and protected by shields that had never been broken. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, watching the small yellow star grow larger on his screens. Somewhere around that star was the primitive world called Earth, completely unaware that its doom was approaching. "Full sensor sweep," Kethvar ordered. "I want to know everything about this system before we move closer." The Zephyrian sensors were the best in the galaxy. They could detect the smallest spacecraft from millions of kilometers away. They could analyze the composition of planets and identify every artificial structure in a solar system. But as they scanned toward Earth, they found exactly what their intelligence reports had predicted. "Sir," reported Sensor Officer Blacks, "I'm reading primitive satellites around the third planet. Some basic space stations, a few small craft moving between the planet and its moon. Nothing that poses any threat to our fleet." Kethvar nodded with satisfaction. The humans had not advanced much since the last intelligence-gathering mission. They were still trapped close to their homeworld, still using chemical rockets, still completely helpless against galactic technology. "Any signs they have detected our arrival?" the Admiral asked. "Negative, sir. Their communications are still normal civilian traffic. News broadcasts, entertainment signals, basic satellite data. No military alerts, no emergency protocols. They have no idea we are here." The 12 Zephyrian ships moved steadily toward Earth. Their formation was designed to inspire terror, a line of massive vessels that blotted out the stars behind them. Every conquered world had surrendered immediately upon seeing this sight. As they traveled, hidden human sensors tracked their every movement. Deep in the asteroid belt, objects that looked like ordinary rocks recorded the alien ship's energy signatures, weapon configurations, and shield frequencies. On distant moons, computer systems analyzed the data and calculated the best ways to destroy each vessel. General Torres sat in his command center on Earth, watching the enemy fleet approach. Around him, dozens of officers monitored screens showing the positions of humanity's hidden assets. Everything was going according to plan. "The aliens are maintaining standard formation," reported Colonel Williams, Torres's second-in-command. "They're not even bothering to scan for hidden threats. They think we're completely helpless." "Good," Torres replied. "Let them keep thinking that." "Are all our assets in position?" "Yes, sir. Dreadnoughts Indomitable, Retribution, and Vengeance are holding position in the asteroid belt. The orbital defense platforms are powered down and drifting with the space debris around Earth. All fighter squadrons report ready." Torres nodded. The next few hours would determine the fate of humanity and the balance of power in the galaxy. Everything depended on the aliens maintaining their arrogance just a little longer. "Admiral, Kethvar's fleet reached the orbit of Mars and continued toward Earth. The red planet showed signs of primitive human exploration, some small satellites and what appeared to be abandoned landing sites. Nothing worth their attention." "Sir," Commander Zex reported, "we are receiving a transmission from Earth. It appears to be from their planetary government." "Put it on screen," Kethvar ordered. The image that appeared showed a human male in what looked like primitive formal clothing. He stood in a simple room with basic technology visible in the background. The human appeared nervous and confused. "This is Secretary General Williams of the United Nations," the human said. "We have detected your ships approaching our system. We don't understand what you want. Please respond." The bridge crew of the Eternal Conquest made their clicking laughter sounds. The human looked exactly like the terrified primitives they had seen on dozens of other worlds. "Standard first contact protocol," Kethvar ordered. "Open a channel." The Admiral's image appeared on screens throughout Earth as he broadcast his message to the entire planet. "People of Earth, I am Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Confederation. Your world has been selected for resource extraction by the Galactic Commerce Guild. You will immediately surrender all military assets and prepare your population for relocation to designated mining colonies. On Earth, billions of people watched in terror as the alien admiral continued his speech. You have 1 hour to comply. Any resistance will result in the destruction of your major cities. This is not a negotiation. This is an order." The human response came exactly as Kethvar expected. Panic, confusion, desperate pleas for mercy. Their primitive communication networks filled with terrified messages. Their leaders broadcasted appeals for more time, offering to negotiate. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Vex, "the humans are launching some kind of response. multiple missile launches from their planet's surface. Kethavar looked at the tactical display showing dozens of primitive nuclear missiles rising from Earth's atmosphere. They moved slowly, following predictable paths that any child could calculate. "Destroy them," the Admiral ordered. Zephyrian point defense systems activated. Precise energy beams reached out across space and detonated every human missile before they could even leave Earth's gravitational field. The display of superior technology was supposed to break human resistance completely. "Another transmission from Earth, sir," Commander Zex announced. This time the human leader looked completely defeated. "Please, we surrender. Don't destroy our cities. We'll do whatever you want." Admiral Kethavar smiled with satisfaction. Another easy conquest. The humans had fought for exactly 17 minutes before giving up. It was almost disappointing. "Begin orbital bombardment of military targets," Kethavar ordered. "Destroy their space stations and satellite networks. Show them what happens to species that resist the Confederation." The Zephyrian ships moved into Earth's orbit and began systematically destroying human space assets. The International Space Station exploded in a brilliant flash. Communication satellites were picked off one by one. Everything that humans had built in space was being erased. On Earth, General Torres watched the destruction with cold anger. The aliens were destroying civilian research stations and communication satellites, targets with no military value. They were showing off, demonstrating their power over helpless humans. "Sir," Colonel Williams whispered, "are we really going to let them destroy everything?" "Those are unmanned platforms," Torres replied quietly. "We evacuated all personnel 6 hours ago. Let the aliens think they're winning. In a few minutes, they're going to learn the difference between our public space program and our real capabilities." Admiral Kethavar watched the destruction of human space assets with satisfaction. The primitives had built their simple satellites and space stations with touching optimism, never imagining that advanced civilizations might want to destroy them. "Sir," Sensor Officer Blacks called out, "I'm detecting some unusual energy readings from the outer system." "What kind of readings?" Kethavar asked. "Uncertain, sir. There seems to be some kind of activity in the asteroid belt. Probably just solar radiation affecting the rocks." The Admiral dismissed the report. Asteroids were asteroids. His attention was focused on the helpless planet below, where billions of humans waited to learn their fate. What Sensor Officer Blacks had detected were the power systems of the human Dreadnoughts coming online. Deep in the asteroid belt, ships that had been hiding for decades were finally revealing themselves. But they were still too far away for the Zephyrian sensors to identify them as threats. "Begin the final phase," Admiral Kethavar ordered. "Target the human capital cities. One demonstration bombardment should end any thoughts of resistance." The Zephyrian ships charged their main weapons, preparing to glass human cities from orbit. It was supposed to be the final act of conquest, the moment when humanity accepted its defeat. Instead, it was the moment when the galaxy's greatest mistake finally revealed itself. Admiral Kethavar was preparing to give the order to destroy New York City when his sensor officer screamed, "Sir!" Massive energy signatures appearing throughout the system, unknown contacts rising from the asteroid belt. The main display changed to show the tactical overview of Earth's solar system. Where moments before there had been empty space and floating rocks, now there were contacts. Dozens of them, all showing massive energy readings. "That's impossible," Commander Zex whispered. "Our scans showed nothing but asteroids." Admiral Kethavar stared at the screen in shock. The contacts were moving toward them at incredible speed. Whatever they were, they had been hiding among the asteroids, powered down and invisible until this moment. "Sir," Sensor Officer Blacks called out, his voice shaking. "I'm reading 12, no, 15, 20 massive contacts. They're bigger than our ships, sir, much bigger." The first human dreadnought appeared on visual display as it shed its asteroid camouflage. The USDF Indomitable was a monster of angular armor and weapon systems, 3.5 kilometers of pure destruction. As its stealth systems deactivated, it became visible like a mountain of metal rising from empty space. "What in the void is that thing?" Kethavar demanded. Before anyone could answer, more ships appeared. The Retribution, the Vengeance, the Unbreakable, each one a testament to 50 years of human preparation and rage. They had been hiding in plain sight, disguised as asteroids, waiting for exactly this moment. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the alien fleet through her view screen. She was a short woman with gray hair and cold eyes. A veteran of 20 years in humanity's secret space force, she had been waiting her entire career for this day. "Communications, open a channel to the alien flagship," she ordered. Admiral Kethavar's image appeared on the Indomitable's main screen. The alien looked confused and frightened, nothing like the arrogant conqueror who had been threatening Earth just minutes before. "Admiral Kethavar," Captain Vasquez said calmly, "you are hereby ordered to withdraw from this system immediately. This is your only warning." The Zephyrian admiral stared at the human woman who had just given him an order. His confusion quickly turned to rage. These primitives had somehow hidden ships from his sensors, but they were still just humans. His fleet was the pride of the Confederation. "Impossible," Kethavar snarled. "You are a primitive species. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Stand down immediately or face destruction." Captain Vasquez smiled, and it was not a friendly expression. "Admiral, you have been watching our civilian space program. You have never seen our military. Would you like a demonstration?" "All ships, attack formation," Kethavar shouted. "Destroy these human vessels." The space battle that followed would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries. The Zephyrian fleet had fought and won against dozens of species. Their tactics were proven, their weapons tested, their shields believed to be unbreakable. The humans fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. The first Zephyrian ship, the Destroyer of Worlds, fired its main plasma cannon directly at the Indomitable. The blast was powerful enough to crack a continent. The humans' adaptive armor absorbed the energy, analyzed it, and instantly began modifying itself to resist that exact type of weapon. The return fire from the Indomitable was devastating. Human weapon systems did not rely on a single type of energy. Instead, they fired streams of exotic matter that phased through Zephyrian shields as if they did not exist. The Destroyer of Worlds exploded in a ball of fire that lit up half the solar system. "Impossible!" Admiral Kethavar screamed. "Our shields are perfect. They cannot be penetrated." "Sir," Commander Zex reported, "the human weapons are not trying to break our shields. They are going around them somehow. The energy is phasing through our defensive systems." The battle became a nightmare for the Zephyrian fleet. Their energy weapons, which had conquered 43 worlds, proved useless against armor that adapted to each attack. Their shields, which had never been broken, were worthless against weapons that ignored them completely. But the humans' greatest advantage was not their technology. It was their tactics. Galactic civilizations fought battles the way they had for thousands of years. Large ships in formation, trading shots until one side's shields failed. It was civilized warfare, predictable and orderly. Humans fought like the persistence predators they had evolved to be. They used the asteroids as cover, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. They attacked from multiple directions simultaneously. They targeted weak points with surgical precision. The Zephyrian ship Eternal Glory found itself surrounded by human fighters that moved like a pack of wolves. The small craft were too fast and maneuverable for the big ship's weapons to track. They swarmed over the alien vessel, targeting its weapon systems and engines with pinpoint accuracy. "This is not how space battles work," Admiral Kethavar shouted as he watched his formation falling apart. "They are not following proper engagement protocols." Captain Vasquez's voice came over the communication channel. "Admiral, you seem confused. This is not a formal duel. This is war. And humans are very good at war." The Zephyrian ship Thunder of Heaven tried to retreat, but human dreadnoughts had moved to cut off its escape route. The alien vessel found itself trapped between the Retribution and the Vengeance, both ships firing their exotic matter cannons with devastating effect. "Sir," Sensor Officer Blacks reported, "I'm detecting more human contacts. They're rising from the ocean floors of the third planet." Admiral Kethavar looked at his tactical display in horror. Dozens of new contacts were appearing around Earth itself. Defense platforms that had been hidden beneath the seas were rising to the surface, their weapon systems coming online. "How many ships do they have?" Kethavar whispered. The answer came from Captain Vasquez. "Enough, Admiral. We have been preparing for this day for 50 years. Every asteroid you ignored was potentially one of our ships. Every piece of space debris could have been a weapon platform. You came here expecting to face primitive rockets and nuclear weapons. Instead, you found the most dangerous military force in the galaxy. One by one, the Zephyrian ships fell to human firepower and tactics. The aliens' formation broke apart as their captains tried desperately to escape the trap they had flown into. But the humans had positioned themselves perfectly. Every escape route was blocked. Every tactical advantage had been anticipated. The ship's sword of conquest exploded when human fighters managed to overload its power core. The vessel Hand of Empire was torn apart by coordinated fire from 3 human dreadnoughts. The pride of Zephyr simply vanished when a human weapon did something to its atomic structure that Zephyrian science could not explain. In less than 2 hours, 11 of the 12 most powerful warships in the Zephyrian fleet had been destroyed. Only Admiral Kethvar's flagship remained, its weapons disabled and its engines damaged. Captain Vasquez opened communications one final time. "Admiral Kethvar, your ship is disabled but intact. We are allowing you to live for a reason. You will return to the Zephyrian Confederation with a message from humanity." "What message?" the defeated admiral asked. "Tell them that Earth is not defenseless. Tell them that humans do not surrender. And tell them that any species that comes here seeking conquest will face the same fate as your fleet." The crippled Zephyrian flagship limped away from Earth's solar system, carrying with it the news that would change the galaxy forever. The humans had not just won a battle. They had announced their arrival as a new power that could challenge the greatest empires among the stars. As the alien ship disappeared into hyperspace, Captain Vasquez stood on her bridge and looked out at the debris field that had once been the pride of the Zephyrian fleet. Humanity's secret was finally revealed, and there would be no going back. 3 days after the battle, Admiral Kethvar's damaged flagship limped into the Zephyrian home system. The once proud vessel was barely holding together, its hull scorched by weapons the galaxy had never seen before. Emergency repair crews swarmed over the ship as soon as it docked at the massive orbital station above Zephyr Prime. Fleet Admiral Thaximor waited in the docking bay, his forearms crossed in the traditional pose of extreme displeasure. Behind him stood the High Council of the Confederation, 12 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. They had expected to welcome home a victorious fleet carrying news of another easy conquest. Instead, they faced a single broken ship and a commander who looked like he had seen the end of the universe. Report: Fleet Admiral Thaximor commanded as Admiral Kethvar was helped off his ship. "The humans were not what our intelligence reported," Kethvar said, his voice barely a whisper. "They were not primitive. They were not helpless. They were waiting for us." The High Council exchanged glances. Counselor Vexhai, the Confederation's chief military strategist, stepped forward. "Admiral, you took 12 of our most powerful warships to subdue a single primitive world. Where are the other 11 vessels?" "Destroyed," Kethvar replied. "All destroyed. The humans have technology we have never seen, weapons that pass through our shields, armor that adapts to our attacks, ships that can hide among asteroids for decades." "Impossible," Thaximor snarled. "Our scouts monitored that system for months. The humans use chemical rockets. They have basic nuclear weapons. They cannot even reach their neighboring planets reliably." Admiral Kethvar looked up at his superior with haunted eyes. That was their civilian space program. Their real fleet has been hidden in the outer system for 50 years. They let us come close. They let us think we had won. Then they destroyed us. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Harrison stood before a joint session of the world's major governments. For the first time in 50 years, the truth about humanity's secret preparations was being revealed to more than a handful of people. "Ladies and gentlemen," the president began, "as of 3 days ago, our species officially entered galactic politics. The age of hiding is over." Around the table sat the leaders of every major nation on Earth. They had been told only that a national security crisis required their immediate attention. Now they were learning that their planet had just fought and won a war against an alien empire. "How long have you known?" asked the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. "The Solar Defense Force was created 50 years ago," President Harrison replied. "We have been preparing for this day since 1975, when we first made contact with refugees from a species called the Nomads." General Torres stepped forward to brief the assembled leaders on humanity's hidden space fleet. The numbers were staggering. Dozens of dreadnoughts, hundreds of smaller vessels, defense platforms throughout the solar system. "The aliens who attacked us yesterday represent one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy," Torres explained. We destroyed 11 of their 12 ships without losing a single vessel of our own. In the days that followed, carefully edited recordings of the battle were released to the public. The world watched in amazement as human ships that no one knew existed fought and defeated an alien fleet. The revelation that humanity possessed advanced space technology changed everything overnight. But the real changes were happening far from Earth. Across the galaxy, the news of the Zephyrian defeat spread like wildfire. For the first time in over 1,000 years, one of the major galactic powers had suffered a complete military defeat. Worse, they had been beaten by a species that was supposed to be primitive. On the mining world of Kepler 442b, a species called the Talshay heard the news and began secretly building weapons. They had been slaves to the Galactic Commerce Guild for 2 centuries, but the human victory gave them hope that resistance was possible. In the Vega system, the aquatic species known as the deep swimmers contacted their relatives in hiding. They had been scattered by Zephyrian expansion 300 years ago, but now they began planning to reclaim their homeworld. The greatest reaction came from the nomad fleets themselves. Keeper Morvain, now ancient and frail, stood on the bridge of his ship as it received transmissions from across the galaxy. "They did it," he whispered to his aide. "The humans actually did it. They beat back the Confederation." "What do we do now, Keeper?" the aide asked. "Now we come home," Morvain replied. "For the first time in 3 centuries, we come home." The nomad fleets had been scattered across the galaxy, hiding in the dark spaces between stars. Now they began the long journey back to the systems where they had been born, systems that had been controlled by the galactic empires for hundreds of years. On Earth, President Harrison made a decision that would reshape galactic politics forever. Standing before the United Nations General Assembly, he addressed not just humanity, but every species in the galaxy that was listening. "People of Earth, and people of the galaxy," he began, 3 days ago, "our world was attacked by those who believed we were helpless. They were wrong. But humanity does not seek conquest or empire. We seek something far more dangerous to those who profit from oppression. We seek justice." The president's words were broadcast across the galaxy by hidden relay stations that the nomads had built over the centuries. To every species living under the boot of galactic empire, know this: resistance is possible. Freedom is achievable. Earth stands ready to assist any people seeking to break the chains of tyranny. To the galactic powers who profit from slavery and oppression, know this: humanity will not allow you to continue unchallenged. Any attempt to attack Earth or our allies will face the same fate as the Zephyrian fleet. The president paused, looking directly into the camera that was transmitting his words to billions of beings across the galaxy. "We did not hide from you because we were afraid of you. We hid because we were afraid of what we might have to become. But that time is over. Humanity has revealed itself, and we will not be silent while others suffer." The speech became known as the Declaration of Galactic Freedom, and its effects were immediate. Within weeks, rebel movements that had been dormant for centuries began striking at Confederation targets. Species that had accepted slavery for generations started demanding their freedom. The galactic powers tried to respond, but they faced a problem they had never encountered before. For 1,000 years, they had maintained control through the threat of overwhelming force. Any species that resisted was simply destroyed from orbit. But now there was a power in the galaxy that could stand against their fleets. 6 months after the battle at Earth, the first liberated world declared its independence. The mining planet Zerion 7 had been worked by slave labor for 400 years. When its Zephyrian overseers tried to call for fleet support, they found their communications jammed by unknown ships in the outer system. The human Dreadnought Liberator appeared above Zerion 7, its weapons trained on the Confederation garrison. Captain Maria Santos opened communications with the planet's surface. "This is Captain Santos of the Solar Defense Force. Any Confederation personnel who wish to leave this system alive have 1 hour to evacuate. This world is now under the protection of the Free People's Alliance." The Zephyrian garrison fled without firing a shot. 1 year after the battle at Earth, representatives from dozens of species gathered in a hidden system to form the Free People's Alliance. Humans worked alongside nomads, freed slaves, and rebel groups to create a new kind of galactic government, one based on freedom rather than conquest. Admiral Kethvar, now a broken figure living in exile, watched the galactic news feeds from his simple apartment on a remote Zephyrian colony. The mighty Confederation was crumbling, losing systems every month to rebellion and human intervention. The galaxy had thought Earth was defenseless. They had been wrong about everything. Humanity had not just defended itself, it had become the spark that lit a fire of freedom across the stars. The age of galactic empires was ending. The age of free peoples, led by the small blue planet that everyone had underestimated, was just beginning. Earth had shown the galaxy what humans did to those who threatened the innocent, whether human or alien. And the galaxy would never be the same.